All right, come on.
It's there.
Feels good.
Feeling it.
It's not killing my
good.
ears. Live from your ESG USB-C DIY LOL DEI vape pen. It's a Business Pants Friday show here at October 18th Studios featuring all of your favorites. That's right, all of them. Analyst Hole, Matt Moscardi. You're everybody.
Yeah. Did you just list all the things that you don't understand that young people talk about?
On today's weekly wrap-up, Meta employees have acne, but don't call CVS's Karen Lynch. It's not going to help you. Meth-flavored TikTok, three-headed CEOs, and even a one-headed CEO named Jamie that loves to talk. That's what we're talking. That's what's going on today. Come on.
I do. Yeah, there's a lot of talk.
Our show today is being sponsored by FreeFlowAnalytics.com, the only platform measuring board power, connections, and performance for free. In fact,
yes,
the first story
correct.
About CVS
people sing.
And CEO Karen Lynch, the first thing I did was I went to FreeFlowAnalytics.com. I looked up CVS.
Yeah,
I looked at the
that's
board.
the right thing to do.
I looked at some of the newer hires. I looked at their influence. And nothing to do with the fact that I work for the company. That's the first place I go.
I mean, that's beside the point, right?
Well, no, I need to know this information to talk about it. But I'm just saying it's the best and easiest place to go to get quick information about board power, board performance. You're not going to get it anywhere else.
Which is relevant. In the CVS case, it's relevant because there's not a CEO there. Like, there's a CEO.
Play the music.
You want to know who
get
did
to
it? Yeah, let's do it. Let's just do this thing. Take a sip of my giant iced coffee.
So every Friday, especially when we run these shows early, I have this compulsion to wake up early and make sure I cover all the headlines from the night before because I'm always convinced I'm going to...
Our fans demand it.
I'm always convinced I'm going to miss something important and that one person who listens to us is going to be like, how did they not know that Steve Jobs died? What is wrong with these people, right?
Yeah.
And of course, nothing ever happens, but this morning... something happened.
Oh my goodness! Ooh.
The CEO of one of the most biggest names in the world, CVS, stepped down. Well, she was pushed out. CEO Karen Lynch is out.
Let's be clear.
So it's over. The Glass Cliff drugstore CEO run that we were excited about that happened in 2021, where Roz Brewer and Karen Lynch were both appointed, both hired. It's over. They were given an average of less than 3 years to accomplish their long-term goals. We knew this, right? We knew that women, first of all, Fortune 500 companies don't hire women in the first place, but they certainly don't last. If there's any kind of a problem, any issue, some profits are off 0.01%, whatever it is, they're done. There's always a man lurking. There's always someone waiting. In this case.
Sounds creepy.
In this case, it sounds like it's a combination of two men lurking. First, there was
double lurker.
Board chair Roger Farrar, who, according to our data, actually had the same amount of influence on the board as CEO Karen Lynch, which is unusual, right?
Always suspect.
Always suspect. And then there was a guy named David Joyner who had the job that Karen had before she was hired at CVS. So they were both waiting. So David Joyner takes over as the new CEO, and Roger Farrar, who was the chair, actually got promoted. He's now the executive chair. So you wonder if Roger was kind of waiting on this one, right? He suddenly is getting paid a lot to do the same job. Same job.
Yeah. The question has to be, when something like this happens, we like to say it's because the headlines suggest because the rocky tenure of Karen Lynch or the tumultuous
3 years we're talking?
path, but it does seem like a social coup, doesn't it? When the two guys, one guy who was the CEO, the other guy who's 71, who's been there since 2018 and is the independent chair of the board. When those two guys all of a sudden re-elevate themselves to be the heads of the board and the company, isn't that just a social coup? That doesn't have to do with performance because CVS has had shit performance for a decade.
Yep.
It's not exactly like everyone's writing home to their mother talking about their CVS stock increases.
But we got to go beyond that too, though. This is an industry-wide problem. Walgreens, definitely their biggest competitor, a very similar footprint, right? I mean, in my city, it's either Walgreens or CVS. They too are struggling. Same struggles, exact same struggles. They're thinking about closing stores. Remember, and Rite Aid, of course, struggled so much that Walgreens ended up buying them. I mean, this is not just a Karen Lynch CVS problem.
No, Karen Lynch isn't the one who like bought the failing health insurance program that they have. Karen Lynch isn't the one who, like, half of the things aren't actually on Karen Lynch. They're long-term things that have been a problem in a declining industry. And we were talking in pre-production about how going into a CVS or a Walgreens is sort of like walking into like a dirty alley under I-95? Like,
it depends.
It
does.
It's not.
Up here, at least, it depends on the neighborhood. If it's a neighborhood with a high property tax rate, it's going to be clean. If it's not, they don't care.
You're saying rich people.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
rich
that's what I'm
people. Yeah. But the last 5 years, the stock is down. Like, it's down 4% in the last 5 years. And if you just look at like Karen Lynch's tenure, you're not exactly talking like it's her fault, because she took over and it was very slightly higher than it was today. She's not like the reason why the stock is down. When you go even further back and you look at this stock, you're talking about a stock that hasn't outperformed since 2015. Like, it hasn't. It had a nice little run in the pandemic when everyone needed to get COVID shots. That was cute. But how many pandemics does CVS need to actually be viable? I don't know. This does feel like a social coup. It feels like a clear case study of what happens when you have a highly interconnected board who chose a Glasscliff CEO on purpose, doesn't like the performance, and they decide, not investors necessarily, but they decide that they're going to elevate themselves to run this company again.
I mean, I know there's data around this. I don't have it available this second, but it does anecdotally feel like female CEOs just don't last as long. No, am I wrong? I mean,
no, you're not wrong.
I mean,
you're not wrong. Well, we know that because they often get put in a position to run a company after the company has already
which is an additional
right?
burden.
That's what
There's an additional
is.
burden, right? Because if you, by becoming a Glasscliff CEO, the name of it implies that it's a disaster you're not going to fix anyway, which means that they're probably going to pull the trigger on you early anyway, right? Like, because they're just flustered, they don't know what to do, and they don't.
The level of patience is zero.
It's zero patience. They know that the climate of investors, unfortunately, in this country, is that if you get rid of a female CEO early, no one's going to be upset, right? I mean.
No,
right.
No one is going to be upset.
So again, Roz Brewer and Karen Lynch, who we were excited about on this show for various reasons 3 years ago. Now they're both gone from their jobs. So talk about. I mean, they're barely even scratching a long-term pay plan, right? You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna move on. That's the first story. The other
that's how we're kicking off.
The other story is kind of pale in comparison because I was struggling a bit until that story came along. But I'll just I'll go over them. This one made me laugh. Meta Platforms fires staff for abusing $25 meal credits. Now, this one was everywhere. I wasn't going to pick it. I thought maybe this was like a Biz Nuggets kind of story or just something silly, but it kind of was everywhere, so I felt like I wanted to pick it. So what was happening is that they were giving employees $25 Grubhub perks. I guess they were for people who needed food delivered to the office. Maybe they were working late or the cafeteria is closed. I don't know. But the story is that they were a repeated pattern of misuse because they were using them to buy things like laundry detergent and acne pads. So Meta fired them. I don't know. I don't know what to say about this. It just seems petty. That's all. Do you think they warned? It says a repeated pattern of misuse. Does that suggest that they said to them, if you keep buying laundry detergent, we're going to fire you, and they didn't listen and they kept doing it? Like,
is that a daily meal credit? What is that?
It's a daily meal credit. I think it depends. I actually think they had a breakfast credit. They had a lunch credit. You see, I I'm confused about this in general because to me, if you're getting a credit that kind of helps your life, right? Kind of just helps you survive as an employee, kind of helps your health in general, like whether it's mental or physical. Why does it matter how you're spending that credit? I don't really, right? I mean, if you need cigarettes, if you need coffee, if you need a sandwich, like what? If it helps you get your job done, and your job performance is fine, I don't really understand why it matters. But
so in 2023, Zuckerberg Inc.
Who can afford $25 meal credits?
He made the company made $135 billion in 23. And if my back of the envelope math is right here, there's 67,000 employees at Zuckerberg Inc. $25 a day, 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year, comes to about $420 million that they're spending. Okay. $420 million. Do you want to know what Mark Zuckerberg made last year on the dividend he paid himself now that Meta pays a dividend? He made $730 million in the year just on the dividend
that he chose for himself. Yeah.
That he went to the board and said, I want to pay a dividend. The board said, it's your show. You do what you feel. And he paid a dividend. And that's how he got himself a $730 million payday every single year. If he wants to raise the didividend, he wants to lower it. It's like, who's going to yell at him? It's his company.
It's weird.
It's just him.
It's weird to me. I mean, again, to me, the idea is to keep your workers happy. So I worked in Paris, France for a while, and they gave us a meal voucher, a lunch thing, same thing, a meal credit, whatever. What I decided to do is 4 days out of the week, I had a very simple lunch, like a yogurt and a banana, something very simple and cheap. And then the fifth day, I would blow it out. I would take all my meal credits and get a really fancy meal. But who cares?
Well,
should I be fired for that?
No, but I don't think the firing is about the thing.
Okay.
I actually think if you're going to pick on a $25 meal credit as your you have a choice when you run a company to care about that shit or draw hard lines around dumb shit or not, right? Like understand that humans are humans. I think this is a secret way to lay off employees.
Okay,
right?
That's the other story.
Cause,
they are in
right?
the process of laying off employees. They have been for a little while now.
So I think if you're Meta, if you're Mark, and you want to reduce your staff, but you don't want to make an announcement that you're laying off 2% or 1%, like say they fire 1,000 people based on meal credits, right? Out of their 67,000, that's 1.5% of the staff that you're firing for meal credit abuse. But it gives you a reason to not lay them off. You don't have to pay them severance. You've got a for-cause reason, and you're cutting the cost of that 400. Let's say there was 1,000 people who did that. You know how much you save because it's their salaries. I think the average salary there is like $220,000 a year. So that's a couple. You're talking about a couple $100 million on salaries and benefits and everything else. Plus the meal credits are nothing.
I'm disappointed in Mark.
Just a pretense.
Mark had a good run. He was like he was the anti Elon Musk. He was getting good headlines. I'm disappointed in you, Mark. This is
Mark
childish.
Mark wore a T-shirt that said Mark or nothing, didn't he?
I'm not saying he's not an asshat. I'm just saying, come on, you could do better than this.
These are man babies. This is a backwards man baby way to fire staff that you don't want to announce layoffs. That's what this is.
Next story: Amazon invests in nuclear energy, hot in the heels of Google and Microsoft. So basically, Matt, I'll just wrap up the story in a nutshell. Big data. They're all now getting into nuclear energy because their energy needs are so highly intensive now, but going into the future with AI, they're going to be off the charts. So they're basically, because of these stupid tech companies, they're re-ushering in the nuclear energy age, right? And I know there are positives and negatives to all types of energy uses, but my point here is that we don't even really have a say. It's just and in fact, Sam Altman at OpenAI, he actually owns a part of a nuclear power company. He's also found a different way to get rich off of this whole thing. So again, it's part of my series of stories that it's just here's what the tech bros are doing, and no one can really stop them. They're setting their own energy policy. They're just creating the future.
You know what? For this one, I don't good because they're not taxing they're basically reopening nuclear plants to like serve themselves. That it's not a tax on us,
Right? But
once,
but the culture,
it's not a tax on
society
us.
and culture has not decided whether this is the right move. I mean, have they even asked that we? Does anyone even want all this AI? Do we even want this?
Well, that's a
In
totally
the first
different
place,
question.
do we want to be using
AI?
the world's the Earth's limited energy resources for this purpose? We haven't decided, have we?
The answer is no. We don't want the AI.
Yeah,
that's
and
the answer to that question.
And in a true democracy, now I'm not just talking about our, like Trump versus Harris, but in a true investor democracy, we'd have a say over this, but we don't have a say at this at places like Meta or Alphabet, right? I mean,
you don't really have a say over Amazon either, because Bezos owns 12% of the stock.
and institutional investors own so much that they're not going to
influence.
let you get a word in edgewise.
And do we think Vanguard and BlackRock are like standing at the breach saying no nuclear energy for you? Like they don't. No one cares.
Yeah, that's the issue. That's the issue I have here, is that nobody
Indifference.
cares, right? Or
Indifference is the problem.
That's the third story. Go ahead.
This is when it comes to actually the content of this, like I'm fine. Have a nuclear plant, just store the waste underneath Jeff Bezos' house.
So you're more upset about a Meta employee being fired for buying laundry detergent?
I'm just upset about a narrative that says the Meta employee is fired for $25 a day meal credits. Get the fuck out of here. That's not what that is. That's upsetting.
And finally, how about this one out of Paramount? Paramount is they're being taken over by Skydance Media. Shari Redstone is selling the family empire.
To the Ellisons.
The Ellison boy, right? Although really it's the father.
No, the dad.
It's the dad's wealth, but
through
the boy,
shell companies,
the nepo baby is by
exactly. The nepo baby is the guy who's like, hey, I run this thing, but daddy paid for it.
So when this all happened, Paramount fired its CEO Bob Bakish, and they for some reason hired three CEOs, a three-headed CEO.
Yeah.
Three co-CEOs to run the company. Now Paramount's saying that it will allow all three co-CEOs to resign and receive severance if they are demoted. So
wow.
Yeah, this is a kind of a new wrinkle. We don't see a lot of three-headed CEOs, but I just and let's not forget, they've only been in these roles since May, I believe. They're going to be getting, and
what a great
just for a point of reference, when Bob Bakish last year, his severance would have amounted to roughly $50 million if he resigned.
Wow.
In a situation like this. I don't know precisely how much all three of these CEOs will make, but let's not forget, it includes 2 years of bonus, 2 years of salary, equity,
an advisory role,
right?
The immediate
Health
vesting
benefits,
of their equity. They get Cobra. I think that's.
And here are the three co-CEOs, just in case you want to know: George Cheeks, Chris McCarthy, and Brian Robin. So there you go.
What I like about this is Paramount adopted the Catholic Church method of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Right?
Wonder which is which.
And it seemed to have worked out really well for the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and not so well for anybody else.
Yeah, let's not forget that at the same time, Paramount is attempting to reduce annual costs by $500 million, including getting rid of 15% of U.S.-based staff. So $500 million is really not that much when you consider the figure I just told you about Bob Bakish. That
about
$50 million severance.
Of that went to that guy.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
Well, that's not reducing it. That's paying it. You're kind of trying to reduce things by $500 million by paying a guy $50 million to get out. That doesn't make any sense.
And this is why it's important, if you run a publicly held company, that it's important that you control all the voting power, because no one can tell you what to do. Right? You can just decide this on your own, because this is how This is how tech works. This is how media works. All right, those are the four big stories.
All right, so it's CVS
so
oust Karen Lynch, Meta's fake $25 meal credit firing excuse, big tech's nuclear energy policy, and Paramount. I love a three-headed CEO.
Really?
But I can't vote for that for story of the week. I just because it's been going on since May, right? But But I love a good three-headed CEO because it doesn't happen that often. I feel like the nuclear thing is not so bad. I'm torn between Karen Lynch and fake firing for $25 meal credits. Really, $25 meal credits. You know, like you go to Chipotle, it costs you $15 to get a lunch, right?
Well,
like,
yeah, I mean, that is if you don't even get like chips or a drink, right? I think.
yeah, no, that's just like the bowl of rice and beans that you got.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Matt. Do Meta employees really even need laundry detergent?
Ooh.
I mean, what are we doing
No.
here? That's wasteful.
Do they wear like anything but sweatpants? Do they
I
need to
don't know.
watch? What? You make $220,000 a year. Don't you just buy new sweatpants when your old ones are dirty?
I like how
isn't that the way that works?
I like how the business news is trying to shame them too, because the 3 items they actually listed were laundry detergent, wine glasses, and acne pads.
yeah.
I mean, we're really getting a good picture here of a Meta employee, right? Soiled
Right.
sweatpants, drunk, and just zitty. I mean,
What did they leave their mom's basement yet?
yeah,
or
but
what?
I don't know why they're not entitled to those 3 great things anyway.
But I think the story of the week has to be CVS Karen
All right,
Lynch.
fine.
I mean, that is squarely in free float
Oh, of
data.
course.
That is a social coup.
Of course.
When you look at the connections data, these are board members who are highly interconnected with one another. This is a company that's a mature company that it basically had a coup from within. So from the boardroom. So I think that's the only story that we can go with.
I also got to add that I love the implication that since these are daily $25 meal credits, right? That if they're buying things like wine glasses, does that mean they're buying wine glasses every day? You think?
Yeah, they're buying like one a day. Yeah.
So by the end of the maybe that's it. Maybe Mark Zuckerberg went into someone's apartment and they saw like 800 wine glasses. And they're like, wait, what the fuck is going? We can't do this. You can't have 800 wine glasses.
Do you remember when Zuck, like 6 months ago, talked about like the era of efficiency and everyone's going to be working like 12-hour days again? And like, you know, because Elon Musk made it okay
No more
to treat your
surfing?
workers like shit.
Yeah.
Remember? $25 a day, like over a 12-hour span. Think about it, that's $2 an hour. That's basically a packet of M&Ms every hour. That's all you get.
No,
Like,
to be
that's
fair, I think the actual benefit is $20 for breakfast, $25 each for lunch and dinner.
That's it. That's
although
a
again,
lot.
that's a long day, right? I mean, if you're buying 3 meals at your job, that means you're there all while.
I take it back. That's a lot. They should be fired for that. All right,
let's move on.
Let's go on. Absolutely of the week. All right, I've got 3 stories. First story, I saw this headline: SEC charge hinges on directors' lack of, quote, social independence. Did you see this? Did you read this story?
I don't even know if I saw the headline. No, tell me about it.
So, all right. So, a board member, a former CEO, chair, and board member of Church and Dwight, agreed to a 5-year officer and director bar. Basically, he's now barred from ever being an officer for the next 5 years, anywhere for 5 years, and $175,000 charge because he made false statements about his independence from the company.
Ooh.
He never told the company.
Wait, what?
He had a close friendship
What?
with one of the executives.
This is amazing. This is real?
So this is real.
It's right up our alley.
So he kept the relationship hidden, apparently. Although, seriously, this guy was the former CEO.
This is weird.
So he keeps the relationship he has with an executive hidden, doesn't tell the board about it, and
You mean like a romantic relationship?
No, not romantic. This is a friend.
Wow, this is
it's literally a friend.
This is nuts.
They said after the company learned that he was close friends with the executive, like they must like hang out every weekend or something, it changed Craigie's status. The guy's name is James Craigie. It changed his status from independent to non-independent.
Okay.
That's what the company had determined. And the SEC said, you should have determined that before. You put him forward as an independent director. You should have said this before.
Hats off to the SEC, but this could be you could be doing this across the director universe. I mean, Only one person.
Well, that
we're
is
finding
why
for
I'm
this?
angry.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sydney Posner, who's a Cooley law firm, and congrats to her, has some great quotes in this article. It says social dependence is correlated with lower probability of CEO turnover following poor operating performance and a higher likelihood the CEO manipulates earnings to increase his or her bonus.
Of course.
As in, because these are your friends, you don't say anything. Now, we've been saying this for fucking years.
Yeah.
Years. We just covered Parker Hannifin on our Proxy Countdown show, and which if you didn't download, go download that. Because if you want to know what a parochial board looks like, 100% of the board the board members work and live inside 250 miles of Parker Hannifin. In fact, 40% of them are from Ohio, where Parker Hannifin is. There's one woman who's never left Akron, who's 30 minutes from headquarters and is connected to the CEO. Where are the regulations on this? Why do we have to wait? The asshole here is the SEC, because the SEC
I don't know.
barred
Yeah.
and fined this guy. Where on earth are they with everyone else?
But
we know that 20% of large cap boards are connected to each other just through boards. Just boards.
But I think the SEC, they would love to have an enforcement budget that was massive. I mean, they would want to be doing this, right? But they just don't have the budget or the
need a
staff.
budget. You have free float data. We could connect these people together.
Right,
like
but
you
you're
can make inferences about it.
But you're suggesting that the companies are being honest. I mean, the SEC has to dig into this stuff.
I'm suggesting that it's not about the companies being honest or not. It's about the definition of independence. The New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ define independence as basically having not worked for the company for 3 years, right? Like that's pretty much it, or 5 years. Here's an example, okay? Leslie Kilgore is a director on the Netflix board. She actually worked at Netflix from 2000 to 2012 under Reed Hastings, the founder of Netflix. She was the chief marketing officer. Reed Hastings is on the Netflix board still to this day as founder, and Leslie Kilgore joined the board and is considered independent, sitting on a board with her former boss. How is that not like a lack of independence? How is that?
No, I'm with you.
The definition of social dependency.
I'm with you. I just don't get why the SEC is at fault here. What about the listing exchanges? What about the New York Stock Exchange? What about NASDAQ?
Sure,
They could get
they're
involved.
all complicit. Well, if the SEC starts finding every one of these board members who are connected to one another, absolutely the NYSE and NASDAQ are going to have to change their requirement of what is independent. And why does the listing exchange get to determine what an independent board member is? The SEC is simply saying, you said they were independent, but they weren't, and you changed it, and that's the problem. But why is that bar set by a for-profit company whose sole purpose is to get more people listed on them? That doesn't make any sense. Independence should be defined at a regulatory level, not at an exchange listing level. That doesn't make sense to me.
Here's a tangential story that we haven't covered yet. This is out of a Swedish, I think it's a Swedish bank, Klarna Bank.
Yeah, Klarna's like a pay-as-you-go, like credit.
Who we don't cover, I believe, because I don't think they're publicly traded, but they're not in our database. I don't think they actually have a ticker. I don't think they're listed. But here's the story. Klarna director says he was ousted over CEO bonus objection. So he was a director who was against an egregious pay package for the CEO that could have been worth billions of dollars. He voted no,
Got shown the
and
door.
the board kicked him out for that decision.
Right.
Yeah.
This is so social independence. If you are going to bar a director for not having social independence, you need to bar 60, 70, 80% of U.S. large cap boards. That's forget the rest of the world. You want to go to like India? Basically, everybody needs to be off the board. Japan, sorry, you're all out. Like the fact is, this is the industry. This is actually how you choose board members. You want someone who won't dissent, who you can go get Mai Tais with, and you'll enjoy their company.
Look, this
isn't about independence. This is a club.
This only supports my idea even more. First of all, American CEOs should not be on their boards. I don't care. I don't care who says what about that. But that's the real rule. That's the first rule that I'm going to make. You're not no CEOs on the board. Second of all, boards, you can't appoint directors before the elections. Let the
Yeah,
shareholders
correct.
weigh in, and don't just give me one nominee. Let's have at least two nominees. How about you give shareholders a choice? Find two highly qualified candidates, and at least let the investors have an initial choice of who joins the board. How about that?
I honestly,
How about that?
I would prefer if every single AGM where you're electing a director, whatever the board size is, if you have a board size of 10, you have 20% more people up for the positions than you have positions, right? So you put up 12 people for 10 slots. Or this way, at a minimum, an investor can say, I will analyze these people for dependencies, for issues. I think the whole system. This gets back to what we wanted to do, which is trading directors. If you could trade a director, if I could say Church and Dwight, this guy's not independent on yours, but I want to trade him somewhere else because I really like him. I think he's smart. I think he's
and we can still
he's good.
And we'll still invite him to the annual barbecue. Don't worry, he can still have his buddies.
Yeah, it's fine. His
we'll
buddy
still
is
golf
his buddy.
together. Yeah,
it's not a big deal.
Well, look,
there's so many ways to solve this, and no one is solving. No one cares.
Here's one of my issues. This is one of the reasons. One of the 15 terrible reasons we started this company. But one of the reasons for me personally was that after all the great innovation in the field of ESG and corporate governance, like 20 years ago, hats off to people like Rick Marshall, Nelmenau, Bob Monks, and more. Those are some of the people that I worked with. But since that time, where there was so much innovation and change, it's been crickets. Like nothing else has changed.
Yeah,
like
that's correct.
We need to start innovating again in this field. Investors need to start pushing for okay. So the boards are now we have annual elections. Great. We've separated some of the CEO and chair. Okay, that's great. But it's all 20 years old. Let's do something new. How about that?
And part of the reason why I'm upset at the SEC and not like anyone else is because Kimball Musk is listed as not independent, and they always listed him as not independent. Well,
remember,
right?
Didn't we have that weird analysis where you had to be an immediate family member, like a brother was okay?
That's the listing exchange. The listing exchange said you need to be like the rule of the listing exchange is in order to be considered not independent, you have to be an immediate family
living in the
member,
same home,
living with the person for a certain number of years. Like this is insanity.
Let's not forget that Elon Musk is going to his directors' weddings too.
And there's a whole Catherine McCormick throws the case her honor. Catherine McCormick throws his payout as a result of those social independence issues, right? This is not like
and that's
an
in a corporate friendly
issue.
state. That's Delaware too. It's not.
And investors still say, keep Kimball on the board. I'm going to read Sidney Posner's quote of the research one more time to end this number
then let's
one
move on.
asshole.
Come on.
Social dependence is correlated with lower probability of CEO turnover, following poor operating performance, and a higher likelihood the CEO manipulates earnings to increase his or her bonus. That's academic research about social dependencies on boards and what it means for you as a shareholder. Shit happens and no one cares about it. This is something people should care about. The SEC should care about. All right, number 2.
Come on. Do we need number 2? Do we need number 2?
Well, number 2 is a repeat a little bit of last week. Digital tobacco.
Okay. We talk about this every week. What are you doing? Come on.
TikTok knew its algorithm harmed kids, accidentally revealed internal documents show.
Yeah, they were probably applauding it. I mean, it's a very powerful algorithm that keeps you there.
There are 14 states that are suing TikTok.
That's it?
Apparently, TikTok internal documents found that after just 35 minutes of a child using TikTok, they are fully addicted. It's faster than meth.
Ooh.
That's the speed of addiction.
In second place. Yeah.
Is that's a dubious second place.
Yeah.
Meth is in second.
Well, I was going to say, as someone who thankfully quit smoking, as someone who's used to smoke many years ago, the first few cigarettes are horrible. You actually have to fight. You have to fight to get to the addiction. Whereas TikTok, it's an instant addiction, right?
It's instantaneous.
You don't have to fight through it.
35 minutes is all it takes from the start of using the app, and they calculated that at TikTok. That's not like some academic on the outside doing like a controlled trial.
Yeah.
They're looking at the data of people's usage and realize they get
They're not
addicted.
breaking any laws, right? Completely legal.
Then there's this one. Meta must face U.S. state lawsuits over teen social media addiction. Zuckerberg, not Meta, is being sued by 14 different states.
Are these the same states in both cases?
It's the same states.
Red and blue
same
states?
state lawsuits.
Red and blue?
Yep. This is a bipartisan issue for once.
The only thing we agree on.
So here's the assholes.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's got to be an asshole here, and this is a slightly new asshole. The directors who sit on the boards of these companies sit on the boards of other companies. We've talked about this before when we analyzed Meta's board, right? There are 40 directors at Alphabet, Meta, Snap, and Pinterest. And I chose Pinterest because they're dual class also.
Are people addicted to Pinterest? Is that a real
I don't
company?
think
What
so,
is
but
Pinterest?
I included them.
Okay.
I included them.
That's
Those directors have 72
they're happy they're included in
directorships.
anything.
I know. They're just so they're happy I said their name. 22 of those directors, there are 22 of them that have directorships on other boards. Okay. So that's 22 people. If you eliminate all the other dual class asshole boards that they're on, and they're on other dual class asshole boards, like Mark Andreesen only sits on dual class boards.
Yeah, well, it's an easier ride. That's what I would do.
But I have a list of basically 15, 17 directors that sit on some multiple other boards and enable digital tobacco. These are digital tobacco directors. They have no control on those boards. They don't stop their CEOs. They don't resign in protest when they're sued for social media addiction in kids. The same way like tobacco executives had to line up in Congress, and the tobacco is like this weird case study where usage has gone down. In fact, our Goodliest this week, you stole one of them, was about the decline in tobacco use, right? That has been a multi-decade process to get there. Meanwhile, these directors are sitting on the boards of companies making money selling digital tobacco.
Let's not forget that a lot of the executives who run these digital tobacco companies, they don't even let their own kids spend a lot of time, right, on their own server. Like, they don't let them have smartphones or let them spend too much time on these apps.
No, fuck.
All right,
they don't let them do anything.
Yeah, are you gonna?
So that's number 2.
Are you gonna put this data up on the website freefloat.llc?
I will make this a data drop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Here's number 3, the last one. Headline was United Airlines Board of Directors approves share buyback.
I was
program.
surprised by this. I was surprised. This is a weird way to spend money. I guess they're trying to bribe their
4 years ago,
shareholders.
we just bailed you out. You lost $6 billion because of the pandemic. Then you followed that up with a $1 billion loss.
Why don't you buy better
Last year,
seat
net
cushions?
income actually
Better seat cushions.
Honestly, this is United Airlines board includes the highest TSR performer according to Free Float data on the board, has a 488 batting average, meaning that everyone on the board stinks. They're all below average.
Give it to your flight attendants. I mean, they've been getting so much abuse since the COVID.
Unbelievable. So you can send your thank you notes to Vanguard, who owns 14% of the shares.
Now I
and
understand.
Cap, who own
now I
9%
get
of the shares, when they stop serving you hot food.
Now I get it.
And they basically force you to sit in an overhead bin because they spend all their money on share buybacks.
How many of those Vanguard executives do you think also are flight attendants on these flights?
All of them, 100%. So those are my 3. SEC and social independence, digital tobacco directors.
So this is a hard one for me.
United Airlines share buyback program.
I like the United Airlines one. It's a dinosaur. I mean, we don't talk about buybacks enough, but it's an old story.
It is an old story. I can't believe they're doing it again. We literally just castigated them from doing it for doing it and not having any money.
I love a bipartisan anything in this country, so that there are red and blue states both attacking digital tobacco is exciting. But more than that, I love the story about a lack of social independence. SEC charges hinges on directors' lack.
Yeah,
but
that's
before you hit your bell, I'm not as mad at the SEC as you are. I don't. That's the asshole I have to vote on, or can I? Can I just vote on generic assholery in this area?
Yeah.
Okay, that's my vote. Okay.
Because there are a lot of rules to this game.
I really do think that the SEC, a lot of regulatory bodies, I actually think they would do more enforcement if they could. I really do. You don't?
think that,
No? You don't think? You
that's
don't care?
cute. No, I don't think this is in their purview, and I think it should be. All right,
Moving on.
let's just finish out. We'll do goodliest, headliniest, winners, and predictions.
We
all
got
at
a bunch
once.
of stuff we'll finish up the show with. Yeah, we'll go quickly.
Yeah, we'll just finish it off with. This is a speed
Less
round.
ranting, a little more frivolity, hopefully.
Let's do some speed round and get out of here.
I got two goodliest headlines, and then we can vote. My first one that you mentioned: teen tobacco use falls to 25-year low.
Nice.
Look, this is the only thing I ever say about America when I travel is that the one thing we seem to have gotten right versus the rest of the world. The one thing is that we don't seem to smoke as much as a culture than everybody else.
It's true,
especially young people. Like I've been visiting my
Although-
daughter several times at college. Nobody smokes. It's almost done.
I never smoked, and like in a
Show
weird way,
off.
I had like this Gen X urge to like get a cigarette.
It's
the other
not.
day.
It's
I
not
was just
enjoyable. It's not enjoyable.
all right, here's one from
Yeah.
me. Supreme Court allows EPA to limit power plant emissions.
I was surprised by this one.
That's right.
Surprised.
They're allowing it. It's temporary. There's a lot of well, there's lawsuits coming up from the states, individual states, that they're going to have to all process them. But at this point, they're saying the EPA can limit power plant emissions. For the EPA, basically, they said the EPA can do its core function. So that's nice. That's good.
As long as the EPA exists, which might not be for a long, right?
We'll just say for now.
Union petitions skyrocket under Biden doubling for the first time in 50 years.
I love that. Actually, that's great because full disclosure, I've been canvassing in Pennsylvania for Kamala Harris. And I talked to a bunch of union people who are all like on the fence because they don't like, and it's great because it's like now I can go in and say, that union petitions have actually doubled under the Biden administration.
Right.
So it's the first time in half a century that's been true.
I am sensing a bit of, and we started the show talking about Glasscliff CEOs, but you do sense the creep of misogyny and sexism coming back into this election because these same people in places like Pennsylvania, unions, were supporting Biden, and now magically they're not sure about Harris. It does smell a little sexist, doesn't it?
Look, I'm not sure. I don't know what her policy position thing is basically just veiled sexism and or racism. That's fine. That's fine.
And the other candidate
veiled.
hates unions, so I mean,
But look, it's veiled.
It's veiled.
So that's
sure.
all we can
What
ask
else?
for.
What's your last one?
Here's my last good list. JP Morgan's Diamond says economy remains resilient.
All right, now you're just being goofy. Let's throw that one out. So
let's go right to headliniest.
Oh, we're not going to vote. Yeah, we don't need to vote on
thing.
this stuff. They're all good. All those were good except for yours, of course. The headliniest. Oh, so that was I guess that was your segue, right? That was your foreshadowing.
That's my segue. What's
we
your
didn't plan
headliniest?
this, but we all picked Jamie Dimon Says. I just loved this headline because it's just so wordy and mouthy and silly. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon says, "We shouldn't put our heads in the sand. We have to find a better way to help the people who get hurt by AI."
Oh,
what? I don't even know.
Who is putting their heads in the sand?
I don't know what's happening
and who's
there.
helping the people hurt by AI?
I don't know. Well, maybe I agree with him because I do. A lot of the stories I cover on our shows is why are we putting our heads in the sand when it comes to big data, and these tech CEOs? Why do we constantly ignore everything they're doing and just let them get away with it? So maybe he agrees with me.
I pulled I actually think we need to rename the segment just Jamie Dimon Says.
The whole show. How about the whole company? Maybe we'll finally get some attention if we did that.
Here's my headline of the week. CEO Dimon says, cash is very valuable when the future looks treacherous.
Wow. Well,
why are we writing that down? Why?
I don't know. Can I?
Is there anybody anywhere who's like, what's a good idea? Everything looks terrible. I am going to buy Bitcoin. Like, no one says that.
Can I add a wrinkle?
Of course, cash is king.
I want to add a wrinkle to the
please.
Jamie Dimon Says joke. So Jamie Dimon said, I think it was January of this year, that basically they're starting succession planning at JP Morgan. He's going to be gone soon, right? But now,
that's what he said.
But now the headline is changing. This is an actual headline, so it's not Jamie Dimon Says. It's Jamie Dimon Suggests
Oh, I don't like that.
He'll
much.
He'll remain at J.P. Morgan for a very long time. He said, "quote I intend to be doing what I'm doing. I almost guarantee I'll be doing this for a long period of time." So he's not.
Really?
So he's not. Either he's going to be executive chair, or he's not leaving.
You left out the last part of that.
Okay,
sentence.
or he said, or at least until the board kicks me out. But is that happening?
That's just a joke.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's the board that gave him an extra $20 million that he said it would be rude not to take. Right?
Yeah, and the board that's petrified to do the succession planning because they have no idea how to do that.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, all right. Who won the week? Who won?
Yeah, my winner is actually our free float media friends, the Shareholder Primacy podcast with Mike Levin and Ann Lipton.
Going strong. 6 episodes now?
They're going strong. Not only do they
more
have 6 or 7 episodes out, it's more popular than ours. It's 2 people who actually know what they're talking about.
And they have friends.
They have a lot of friends.
Yeah.
They have, but I pulled them because there was Matt Levine, the Bloomberg newsletter writer, wrote this: activist investors are podcasters now. Not only is he correct, but Mike Levin is an activist investor, and Shareholder Primacy is a podcast that you can get.
But he's not talking about them, right? He's not talking about the show.
No, he was talking about Elliott Management.
Oh.
He was talking about Elliott Management. But
isn't everybody a podcaster now? To be real, to be fair.
Hey, how dare you? This is a hard art. We've been doing it for a long time. Give us some credit.
Yeah, so go to wherever you get your podcasts. Search for Shareholder Primacy, right?
Shareholder Primacy,
and follow subscribe to that podcast. My winner of the week are, of course, our 3-headed CEOs.
Oh yeah, that's a good winner though. Right. I feel like they did win. Yeah.
All right, that's it. And predictions. Get out of here.
You do your prediction first. Yeah.
Mine's a bit long-winded. My prediction is that Disney's post Bob Iger succession plan is to replace him with a 6-headed CEO. And so just to be cheeky, I think I asked ChatGPT to give me the names of 6 kind of stereotypical CEOs that could take over Disney.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna give you the names.
These are the real names that ChatGPT?
This is what ChatGPT came up. Do you want me to describe the CEO too that they came up with, or just the name?
I just want names.
Okay, this is the 6 names that ChatGPT suggests will be the 6-headed CEO that takes over Disney. So this is how I guess ChatGPT sees the CEO, because I specifically asked them for American CEOs, and so this is how
like what was the ask? Yeah, it was American CEOs at Disney.
Yeah, something like that, right? Like I kind of narrowed it down, so it's not like they're not taking from CEOs from like South Korea, for instance. But here's what here's the 6 names they suggested will take over Disney: Chadwick Chaz Van Buren III.
I love that.
So this is their joke, right? I mean, it sounds like us, but this is their joke. Reginald Throckmorton.
Are these real people?
They could be. Well, don't forget that we covered that Mortimer Buckley of Vanguard is now a director at Pfizer.
Could you pronounce his name correctly? It's Mortimer,
right? His stage
Buckley,
name is Tim. Yeah, that's the name he used at private school in the Boston area so he wouldn't get beat up. Tim. Wellington Wells Haverford. Bartholomew Wainscott. Milton Kensington. And finally, the 6th 6-headed CEO of Disney will be Horace Farnsworth.
Those are the greatest names in the history of names.
And can I just tell you how they describe Horace Farnsworth? Just to put a cap on this, ChatGPT calls him the CEO who refuses to retire.
Wow! All right, that's fabulous. Okay. All right, my prediction is that kids everywhere across this nation stop playing Simon Says and they start playing Jamie Says. Ooh. In which one kid is in the middle and says something louder and louder and louder, and everyone else that they call the reporters in the game, air quotes, they just write it down furiously. It's called Jamie Says. That's the game. That's it. That's Hazelnut Rawlis. I'm your analyst, Matt Mascardi. We are Free Float. We will be back next week for a full week of shows, Tuesday and Friday at Business Pants. On Thursday, we're at Proxy Countdown. Get the Shareholder Primacy and
Get
Mike
it all.
and Ann Lipton on
Even
Wednesdays.
If you don't listen, just download it.
Seriously, and
them a
send it to a
favor.
friend or give us a rating. Like, what do we got to do? We've been doing this for like 6 years, and where are you people? Like, you need to be more active. Be active, listeners. Give it to everyone you know. Until then, goodbye.